Welcome to Magic Arcanum. I'm Ryan Gomez. Behind the scenes is Nicole Burdick, and we're so glad you're here because it's story time. Today I want to talk about a piece of advice that gets thrown around a lot in the Magic community. But if you're new to the game, you might not have the context to really understand what it means. So allow me to answer the question. Why do we say you should always bolt the bird? Our story begins with this feathery friend, Birds of Paradise, which has been reprinted many times over the years, but was available in the game's alpha release over 30 years ago. Birds of Paradise, or BOP, if you're addicted to TikTok, I guess, is a pretty non-threatening creature, right? I mean, it has no power, so by itself it cannot deal damage, and it will never kill a player. And yet, I would still strongly encourage you to kill this thing on sight. Now, why is that? Well, the birds here are what we commonly call a mana dork, meaning it is a small creature that can be tapped to create mana, just like you do with your lands. And because the birds are so cheap, you can play a forest on turn 1 and then play the birds, and then on turn 2 play another forest, tap both lands and the birds, and play a 3-mana spell on turn 2. So it's a bit like having an extra land in play all game long, which can give you a huge advantage over your opponent as you play bigger creatures and more powerful spells while they are still trying to set up their own strategy. Okay, so where does the bolt part come in, Ryan? Well, imagine you are playing a red deck full of burn spells, instants and sorceries that deal damage to any target. The most iconic of these is also from Alpha, and that's Lightning Bolt. For just 1 mana, you get to deal 3 damage to any target, including players. So, in a burn deck, your bolts are very valuable because they are usually how you plan to win the game. And this brings us to our classic opening scenario, and I'm talking like Queen's Gambit level chess opening. You are on mono red burn, but you lost the coin flip, and your opponent plays first. They open with a forest, tap it for a Birds of Paradise, and then pass to you. You play your mountain, and then stare across the table at that harmless looking bird. What do you do here? Fire off one of your lightning bolts at your opponent directly? That is how you're planning to win the game after all, so you might as well start reducing their life total as soon as possible, right? Well, no. The best move here is to bolt the bird. And that is somewhat counterintuitive, I know, because it feels like a waste of a whole lightning bolt to kill a 0/1 creature when you are counting on those bolts to kill your opponent. But consider this. If your opponent kept a hand with just 1 or 2 forests and was hoping to use that bird to afford their more expensive spells, you might have just pulled the rug right out from underneath them. And, not to mention, the longer that bird stays around, the more mana it will feed to your opponent, meaning they will get multiple turns of advantage out of it, and they will be able to keep playing creatures that your bolts will not be able to keep up with. Therefore, the prevailing wisdom here is to bolt the bird and deny your opponent not only the ramping effect on their next immediate turn, but also all of their future turns, which actually gives you more opportunities to go after their life total instead of, responding to the threats they keep playing. Now, this is all well and good if you're playing Magic in the mid-1990s, but surely that advice is all outdated by now, right? No. The cards have changed, but the idea remains the same. It is worth it to spend a flexible burn spell to kill a creature that creates a mana advantage for your opponent, unless that burn spell is the one that would actually just kill your opponent. They don't give us 1 mana dorks in Standard anymore, but we can still apply this lesson in the lawless land of Thunder Junction. Take a look at Hard Bristle Bandit. He's a 2-mana 1/1 plant rogue that you can tap for 1 mana of any color. Very similar to the original Birds of Paradise from 3 decades ago. So let's say your opponent plays that on turn 2 and passes to you. You draw your card for the turn, and it is Lightning Strike, Lightning Bolt's little cousin. If you've been paying attention, you should know to strike the Bandit, even though it might be tempting to save this burn spell or throw it at your opponent's face and start the damage race. It is far more important to deny them the extra resources because, again, it is a compounding advantage, and if they untap with that Bandit, they will have access to 4 mana after playing their land for the turn, and 5 if they have a way to commit a crime. My favorite spin on this was Stomp the Goose from our first visit to Eldraine, where the Gilded Goose would often get taken out by a Bone Crusher Giant's adventure, but the idea is always the same. Don't be afraid to use a burn spell to take out an opposing mana-generating creature, even if that creature is no threat to you. Now, this exact scenario may not come up for you all that often, and that is fine. Being able to recognize it and apply these lessons in other similar situations will still make you a better player. Another way you can become a better player is to check out my link for TCG Home, the sponsor of this video. TCG Home is a free-to-use app that helps you organize your card collection and provides great insight into card values. They just launched an iOS app, but this whole thing also runs in any browser, so you can have all this information wherever you play your favorite trading card games. And again, it's all free, so use my link and create your account today. Then make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the great stories you'll only find here on Magic Arcanum. We'll see ya!